Hi, I'm Evan Avnet, CEO of USTASC.
And I'm John Glover, firearms instructor for USTASC.
So today we're going to do something a little fun. We're going to look at silly firearms videos, but we're going to approach it from a training perspective. These videos have been widely available on YouTube. We're sure you probably saw a number of them, but let's take a look at the first one. This is an oldie but a goodie.
I just fucking shot myself. Oh, son of a...
In this video, obviously this guy makes several mistakes, and actually he made another video later saying that he was at fault, that it wasn't a holster, it wasn't a firearm. But, so what did you see?
Well, obviously it was improper grip. When you draw out of a holster, your finger needs to be straightened off the trigger. So what he did was he drew the gun, but also flexed his trigger finger into the trigger well and pulled the trigger.
Right, and that's why I like the CQC holsters, because when you pull the weapon out of the holster, you push the side button, and really your finger is exactly where it's supposed to be on the frame of the weapon once you withdraw that weapon. Now there has been some discussion about accidental discharges, or ADs, with withdrawing from that from the 1911 because of the release button is supposedly too close to the trigger guard, so on and so forth. But I think that's also a bunch of horse hockey.
Yeah, I mean, with proper training, that should never happen. I personally use 1911 with every holster that I have, and not a single time have I ever put my finger in the trigger well unintentionally.
Right. So obviously, always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire. If not, you're going to blow a hole in your leg and curse a lot. Apparently.
Naturally.
Yes. And a hospital visit will be in your future.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the next video. This is even more painful to watch. So in that video, first of all, don't point your gun at anything you're not willing to destroy. Here, his friend is launching clays without a clay or a pigeon, thrower or launcher. I'm not a big clay guy, but so his friend is throwing them up in the air for him, and at the point to where he's pointing the weapon, ready to engage those clays, he's pointing them right at his buddy's head.
And shot his hat right off.
He almost shot his head off. Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully that guy lived.
I mean, he got back. Like he was okay.
He got back up, but holy hell!
I mean, you had to break 2 of the weapon safety rules easily. Your finger was not straightened off the trigger, and your gun was not pointed at in a safe direction.
Yeah, that was horrible. So please, if you're going to shoot clays, go to a clay range. Like Zeke's, we go to a range that we use frequently, and that's in Mardella, Maryland, for Fins and Feathers, or Delmarva Sporting Clays. Highly recommend them. They know what they're doing. Don't shoot your friend's head off. It's bad.
Have responsible friends.
Let's talk about this next one. This next one is pretty brief, but shows something that's important. Apparently, this is hilarious to the person that's shooting the videotape. But realistically, what does this show?
It shows improper stance and grip. If she did both of those things properly, then she would not fall on her ass, as she did.
Right, yes, her arse. But yeah, the bottom line is that she's not leaning into the weapon. She's not, the weapon is not properly placed, so on and so forth. So the recoil affects her ridiculously. So,
and counter to what you see in movies and whatnot, a bullet only has so much power. If someone gets blasted away by a handgun, that is completely against physics, because everything has an equal and opposite reaction. Which means if the person got blown away by the bullet, then the other person should have gotten blown away by the
Backwards.
recoil.
Right.
So if you have the proper stance and grip, then those things will not happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter about the person's size, really.
No,
or,
not at
or
all.
weight.
No.
You know, it has to do with dynamics of how to aim that weapon properly. So this next video is an interesting video, although painful again to watch. But this does display an interesting point. So this guy makes a terrible mistake, right? And this makes an interesting point, is that, you know, especially on shotguns, you know, just because the safety's engaged, which we can't tell whether he probably did not engage the safety, but just because the safety's engaged doesn't mean that the gun won't fire. You know, the hammer in that weapon is not locked into place, so therefore it moves freely even though the safety's engaged, correct?
Mm-hmm, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, the shotguns are notorious for going off when jolted violently. So obviously falling to the ground will do just that. And also, you know, if he wanted to be truly safe and go down range, then his bolt would have been open, or the chamber. And you know, I mean, you don't have to do that every time, but definitely would have been a benefit this time.
But he shucked the gun and then put it up against the post.
Correct. He made it live again.
Right.
Yeah.
And obviously that action of just hitting the board when it fell over, hitting the ground, caused that gun to go off. And interestingly, if your gun doesn't have a firing pin block in it, like some handguns don't, then it can result in the same thing, although it's very rare. But,
it's really rare, yeah.
Yeah, but like for instance, the Glock has a mechanism that prevents the firing pin from moving unless the trigger is pulled to the rear. So
well, the Glock's firing pin is even out of place until
Right.
the trigger is pulled. So even if it
Right.
didn't magically fall, it wouldn't fall into the primer of the bullet.
Right. So anyway, just food for thought. You know, don't leave loaded handguns or shotguns laying around where they could fall over and shoot you in the leg, or in the ass for that matter.
Yeah, I'd rather have it in the ass though.
I bet you would.
It's
So-
just painful to watch.
So this man could have easily blown his head off. I mean, and he probably had powder burns on his skull, I'm sure, or
Easy.
on his,
Yeah, he's missing
his
hair
forehead.
patches
Yeah,
on his
that's
forehead.
it. First of all, the guy is. I'm not saying that he's firing too close range to the bottles, but certainly, let's say you're firing that close range at, you know, it looks like he was firing some birdshot or whatever. I don't know, but regardless. You know, he's so close to the, and I'm not saying you can't do it, but you have to also be cognizant of ricochets because it's a wooded area. You're literally standing 2 foot in front of this stuff. Could be a rock in there that's going to cause a ricochet back into your face, whatever, what have you. It doesn't look like he's got any eye protection on that I saw. I don't know if he's got any hearing protection in, but anyway, getting to the meat of the matter, the guy discharges the gun. Then we have what's called a hang fire. He clicks on the trigger, firing pin moves forward, hits the primer, and the round doesn't immediately discharge. So now it's basically a slow burning round or whatever, it's building pressure, or we have a primer problem, so on and so forth. So to check the issue, he looks down the barrel to see if that's going to solve the problem. Now, I don't think that this is a good way to clear a weapon.
It is probably the worst way to clear a weapon. You never look down the barrel of a gun, especially if it failed to fire.
Yeah, that's you obviously want to clear the chamber before you look down the barrel of the weapon. I mean, that is just, and it's really Darwinism at its best.
It kind of is. I mean, I think most places will teach you that if you have a hang fire, to keep it pointed down range and for 30 seconds or better, to make sure that it'll fire off like it did. But also, if he fired and nothing happened and he just made the gun safe, then if the round went off, it would go off on the ground. And as some of you might know, most guns will not have or most rounds will not have a big explosion unless there's a combustion chamber for it to sit in. So if a shotgun round went off on the ground, it would just go poof.
It'll explode like a firecracker.
Yeah, a firecracker, but it
Because
wouldn't
it's
do any
not
serious
contained.
damage.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's not contained within
So I mean, getting that
chamber.
round out quicker is more efficient. And that's what I would have done. If I didn't have a round that went off, then I would have made the gun safe and then checked the rounds to see if they were old or whatnot.
But if you do that, you open the chamber. Obviously, shotgun's a little different because it's going to yank that round out.
Mm-hmm.
But on a regular pistol or something of that nature, if you open up the chamber and it's still seated into the
chamber?
The chamber, excuse me. You don't want to stick your nose in there.
Oh, no, of course not.
If it's still a live round.
So now I have a hang fire and a failure to eject because I just opened my gun and it's still in
and you've
there.
lost your nose.
Yeah, and I lost my nose.
And,
So
I
it's
mean,
just- it's just
I
a
could
bad
use
day.
a little trimming, obviously, but
Okay.
in any
You're
event,
beautiful, you're beautiful.
I am beautiful. So thanks for joining us again. If you have any comments, questions, please email them to us at info@USTASC.com or visit our website at www.USTASC.com.